The first thing you learn driving timber in northern Maine is this: the woods don't care about you. The second thing? They remember. My name's Tyler Boone. I'd been hauling logs for 13 years when this happened. 13 winters of black ice, brake smoke on mountain grades, and sleeping in a cab that smelled like diesel and burnt coffee. My truck was a Kenworth W900. Long nose, dual stacks, heavy haul suspension. The kind of machine that doesn't ask if a road is good, it decides it is. But that night, the forest felt like it had made a decision first. I was running my second load from a cut near the Allagash, heading south toward the mill outside Millinocket. 48,000 pounds of pine chained down tight. It had rained all week. The dirt roads were soft, but the air had turned sharp and cold. The sky was moonless, the kind of dark that swallows high beams. My shoulders ached, my eyes burned. I'd been awake since 4:30 a.m. My daughter had a school recital the next day. I wanted to make it home before midnight. That's when the GPS flickered. The little screen blinked, then recalculated. Alternate route found. Saves 1 hour, 52 minutes. I almost laughed. Logging GPS units don't invent roads. But there it was. A narrow gray line cutting southeast through state forest land. 2 hours saved. I zoomed in. The path looked legitimate. Intersected a known service road near Route 11. Probably a newer cut, probably fine. Probably. The turnoff came without warning. No sign, just a narrow break in willow brush. But the ground showed heavy tire impressions. Someone had used it. I slowed. The woods were silent. Then I turned. 1 mile in, the trees changed. Spruce grew tighter together. Branches interlocked overhead, forming a tunnel that swallowed the sky. The road under my tires felt wrong, too solid. Up here in October, everything should be wet and unstable. But the surface was packed hard, almost smooth.
Like it had been driven 1,000 times.
I eased off the throttle. That's when I saw the jacket. Brown work coat, hanging from a branch. I frowned. Hunters lose stuff. Campers do stupid things. Another 100 yards. A hoodie. Then jeans. Then a child's sneaker dangling by its laces. Then dresses. Then boots nailed to trunks. Every tree lining the road carried something. Thousands of items. Old clothes, new clothes, heavy winter coats, high school varsity jackets, construction vests, even hospital scrubs. They weren't blown there. They were placed, hung evenly, deliberately, like ornaments. My throat tightened. I cracked the window. The smell hit immediately. Dust. Not forest rot, not mildew. Dust. Like opening an abandoned house sealed for decades. That smell does not exist in a living forest. I checked my mirrors. The road behind me was gone. No visible ruts, no turnoff. Just trees, pressed tight, like they had always been there. My pulse jumped. Okay, fine. Keep moving. Road's real. Must be. The truck felt heavier. Engine growling low, straining more than it should for flat ground. The corridor of clothing thickened. Some pieces were stiff with rot. Some looked new. One flannel shirt identical to mine. I told myself that was coincidence. Then I looked in my right mirror. Headlights. Close. Too close for how slow I was going. A logging truck. Same model, same chrome stacks, same dent in the right fender from the deer I hit last November. Same missing mud flap. Same DOT numbers. But reversed. The cab interior glowed faint green. like old fluorescent light, and there was someone behind the wheel. He was wearing my red and black flannel. His posture matched mine, hands positioned exactly where mine were. But his face, it sagged. Gray flesh hanging loose from bone, one eye socket empty, the other filled with something dark and wet. His mouth hung open in a silent grin that showed no tongue. No breath fogged his windshield. No exhaust came from his stacks. And he stared at me. Not the road, me. The truck behind matched my speed perfectly. When I tapped the brake, it tapped. When I accelerated, it did too. The distance between us never changed. My hands tingled. I looked down. The skin along my knuckles looked pale, thinner, veins darkening. My reflection in the side mirror flickered. For half a second, my cheek sagged. I blinked. Normal again, but lighter. I felt lighter, like something inside me was being drained slowly, ounce by ounce. A rhythm filled my ears, not my heartbeat, something slower, mechanical, predictable, like tires rolling over an endless seam. It wasn't chasing me, it was sinking. And when the sink finished, there would only be one truck left. I forced myself to think. If this was happening, it had rules. The road was the rule. Stay in the lane, follow the corridor, complete the route. The clothes were proof. Drivers who finished, drivers who didn't leave the track, their bodies gone, their belongings archived, cataloged, waiting. The thing behind me crept closer. 40 yards. 30. I could see ribs through its flannel. My flannel. My fingers began to lose sensation. The steering wheel felt distant, like I was already somewhere else. Then I understood. The road wasn't a shortcut. It was a filter, a collection system. And the only way to survive a system is to break it. I slammed the differential lock, dropped into low gear, floorboarded the accelerator. The engine roared, black smoke blasting into the tunnel of trees. The thing behind me surged forward too. I didn't slow. I didn't hesitate. I jerked the wheel hard right, straight into the spruce wall. Impact was catastrophic. The first tree exploded across the hood. The second shattered the windshield. Clothing burst inward, coats, shirts, dresses whipping into the cab like hands trying to grab me. Metal screamed. Glass rained down. The trailer fishtailed violently. I kept my foot down. Another tree snapped. Another. The truck plowed forward 10 feet, 15, 20. Every impact felt like tearing through resistance, and with each broken trunk, the pressure inside my skull faded. The numbness retreated from my hands. Behind me, something made a sound. Not an engine, not animal, a metallic shriek of rage. I didn't look. I refused. I kept breaking trees, breaking the path, breaking the rule. Then, silence. The forest ended abruptly. The truck burst onto open asphalt. Route 11. Real road lines, real reflective paint. The engine died instantly. Steam hissed from the ruptured radiator. I sat there shaking for a long time. Finally, I looked in the mirror. Empty highway. No second truck. No green glow. No corridor of clothes. Just Maine night stretching wide and clean. I made it back to the yard in Ashland, barely holding together. The Kenworth looked like it survived a battlefield. Crushed grille, twisted frame, shattered glass, interior filled with rotting clothing. Dale, the mechanic, pulled a tiny pink sneaker from under the pedals.
Tyler, where the hell were you?
I didn't answer, because I wasn't sure. That night I went home. I showered for almost an hour. Dust kept washing off me, gray water swirling down the drain. I checked the mirror afterward. For a second, my reflection lagged, just slightly. Then it caught up. I sold the truck 2 days later, quit logging. Now I drive interstate freight on major highways only. No back roads, no forest cuts. And I never take alternate routes. Because I know something now. The woods don't just grow. They collect. And somewhere out there, there's a corridor of trees lined with clothes. And a logging truck driving patiently in the dark, matching someone's speed. Waiting for them to finish the route. Waiting to wear their face.
On my 7th year as a federal wildlife officer in northern Montana, I stopped believing in coincidence. The woods don't create accidents, they create patterns. And if you walk long enough through the backcountry near the Cabinet Mountains, you start noticing them. That patrol was supposed to be routine. Sector 44, deep wilderness, no maintained trails, no active trapper permits for over a decade. Locals avoided it, even poachers preferred easier ground. But someone had been running sable-grade marten traps out there. Clean work, professional, no footprints, no shell casings, no trash, just perfectly placed wire snares and skinned pelts removed with surgical precision. Whoever was doing it knew how to disappear. I expected a fugitive, a survivalist, maybe some anti-government off-grid cult. What I found wasn't in any training manual. The old winter cabin sat near a stream locals once called Devil's Run. It shouldn't have been standing, logs sagging, roof half collapsed. But smoke drifted from the metal chimney, fresh. I approached quietly, rifle low, but ready. No generator hum, no vehicle tracks, no dog. Just silence. Not natural silence, not forest silence, something cleaner, filtered. I pushed the door open. It creaked. Inside, it was warm, too warm. The air smelled of dried sage, old pine sap, and something metallic, sharp, like ozone before lightning strikes. 3 men sat on the bunk beds, not moving, not sleeping, just sitting, facing different corners of the room. When I stepped inside, boots heavy on the wood floor. None of them turned their heads. "Evening," I said. "Wildlife Services. I need to see permits." The man in the center spoke. "Someone who still sees has arrived." His voice was dry, brittle, like bark snapping in winter. I took another step forward, and my stomach dropped. Their eyes, all 3 of them, milky white, not cloudy with age, completely filmed over, dense cataracts. They weren't partially blind. They were fully blind, every one of them. No cane, no hesitation, no uncertainty in posture. They sat perfectly balanced, aware. "You boys trapping without tags?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. The man to the left, thin, sharp cheekbones, ran his fingers over something on the table. The movement was fast, too fast, delicate and precise. "Why would we need permits?" he said. "The forest permits us." My pulse ticked up. "You can't survive out here blind," I said. The youngest one laughed softly. "You survive by sight. That is your weakness." My hand tightened on my rifle sling. "What are you doing out here?"
They began speaking to each other, ignoring me, discussing something in calm, analytical tones, terms I didn't recognize. Undergrowth resonance, flesh beneath vibration, the lie of the visible spectrum. One said, "The world you see is only surface tension. Beneath it is the real mass." Another answered, "Light is interference, noise." The youngest turned his head sharply toward me, his white eyes pointed exactly at my face. "You smell like fear," he said. "Iron and acid." A cold sensation moved through my spine. I hadn't shifted position, I hadn't spoken, yet he knew precisely where I stood. Then I looked at the table. At first glance, I assumed it was butchered game, but it wasn't. The pieces were wrong. Fibrous, gray-purple flesh, veins pulsing faintly. Not like muscle, more like something alive and resisting stillness. It emitted that ozone smell. And beneath it, a faint hum, low, rhythmic, like electrical current through wet wire. "That's not Martin," I said quietly. "No," the center man replied. "It is older." My brain tried to rationalize. Illegal animal experiments, hallucinogens, psychosis. But none of those explain how 3 blind men tracked me the entire time I moved in that room, without hesitation, without error. The youngest stood. He didn't feel for furniture, didn't shuffle. He moved smoothly, predatory. Like the room was mapped inside him. "You interfere," he said. The other 2 stood as well, in perfect unison. My breath grew shallow. This wasn't 3 blind hermits. This was a system, and I was the anomaly inside it. I realized something then. They weren't navigating by sound the way normal blind people do. They weren't echolocating. The cabin had a rhythm, subtle, almost below hearing. The hum from the flesh on the table, the faint vibration in the floorboards, the stream outside moving in steady cadence. Everything synchronized, a constant acoustic grid. They weren't listening. They were feeling interference. And I was loud. My heartbeat, my breath, my shifting weight. To them, I was a flare in darkness. "You see too much surface," the center man said. "You cannot feel depth." They stepped closer. Perfect triangulation. I could shoot, but something told me that wouldn't fix this, because the meat on the table pulsed faster, in response to my pulse, to my adrenaline. The room's rhythm shifted, sinking. The youngest reached out, not fumbling, directly toward my throat. I flinched back, and that's when I understood. Their perception depended on harmony, consistency, pattern. Break the pattern. Break them. My radio hung at my shoulder. I grabbed it, cranked the volume knob to maximum, and smashed the emergency alert button. The radio exploded with sound. Static, digital distortion, overlapping emergency tones, unpredictable frequency bursts, white noise screaming through the cabin. The effect was instant. All 3 men convulsed, hands flying to their ears. Their movements lost precision. The youngest staggered sideways, slamming into the stove. The flesh on the table began twitching violently. The hum broke into chaotic vibration. One of the men screamed, not human pain, more like structural collapse, as if something internal was shattering. I didn't wait. I kicked the table over. The grain meat hit the floor and writhed.
Not metaphorically, it writhed, reacting to the noise, reacting to disharmony. The cabin itself seemed to groan, walls vibrating erratically. I bolted for the door. The youngest lunged blindly now, missing me by inches. Not blind, disoriented. I tore the door open and sprinted into the freezing Montana night.
the radio still shrieking in my hand. I ran downhill, through brush, through snow crust, branches slashing my face. Behind me, the hum tried to reform, a distant low vibration rising again, but the radio's chaos held it apart. I didn't stop until my lungs burned raw. I reported it. Officially, illegal squatters, possible cult activity, cabin condemned, follow-up sweep scheduled. Unofficially, I never went back. 2 days later, another team checked the coordinates. No cabin, no chimney, no footprints, nothing but forest. No record of a structure ever being registered there. But something else changed. For weeks afterward, silence bothered me. Complete silence. Because in silence, I started to feel it. A faint, low hum, underneath normal sound. Like something beneath the surface of hearing, trying to synchronize again. I sleep with a fan running now, a television on, static noise apps, air purifier hum, anything irregular, anything chaotic. Because I understand something now. Sight is not the dominant sense. It is the shallowest one. And beneath the visible world, there is another layer, structured by vibration, alive, hungry. And if you stand still long enough, if you let yourself fall into perfect silence, it will map you, synchronize with you. And when it does, you won't be eaten, you won't be killed. You will become texture, part of the deeper mass, part of what they called the flesh beneath light.
I bought the property in early April because the price didn't make sense. Half an acre, small collapsing farmhouse, rusted chain link fence, no HOA, no traffic noise, just a thin strip of woods behind it and one neighboring lot to the west. The listing said motivated seller. I should have asked what they were motivated to escape. The town was a rural patch outside of Springfield, Missouri. Nothing remarkable. Clay-heavy soil, poor drainage. Most yards struggle to grow anything more impressive than weeds, except the neighbors. His name was Walter Harlan, late 70s, lean, wire-thin muscles stretched over bone. The kind of old man who looks like he was carved out of tree bark and forgotten in the sun. He never seemed to rest. From dawn to dusk he worked his garden. Perfect rows, no weeds, no wasted movement. And the soil, it was wrong. Dark, almost black. Thick and loamy like Pacific Northwest forest floor, not Missouri clay. It looked expensive, manufactured. But I never saw deliveries. No compost trucks, no fertilizer bags. Just him, working. The first night I slept there, I woke up at 2:17 a.m. Not from a dream, from a rhythm. Shk, thud. Shk, thud. Shk, thud. Metal into soil. Steady. Measured. I checked the clock twice. Still going. I got up, walked to the window, and peeled back the curtain. Moonlight lit the yard clearly. Walter was digging. Not a small gardening hole. A pit. Deep enough that only his shoulders showed when he stood inside it. He drove the shovel down with mechanical repetition. No pauses, no stretching, no hesitation. The soil came up thick and glossy, almost wet-looking under moonlight. He worked like something on a timer. I watched for 10 minutes. He never looked up, never wiped sweat, never stopped. Eventually, exhaustion pulled me back to bed. I told myself, old men get insomnia. Old men get strange hobbies. Morning erased the evidence. No pit, no mound of displaced dirt. The yard was perfectly flat, freshly raked.
But standing exactly where the hole had been was a garden gnome. Concrete, red hat, beard, classic lawn ornament. Except it looked absurdly heavy. The base slightly sunken into the soil, as if the earth had accepted its weight willingly. Its painted eyes weren't facing outward. They were angled down, toward the ground. I shrugged it off. Eccentric retirees buy weird things. 2 nights later, the sound came back. Shk, thud. Shk, thud. Another pit. Another moonlit excavation. Another morning, no hole. Another gnome. By the end of 2 weeks, there were 8 of them, lined neatly along the fence separating our yards, equally spaced, all staring downward. And I started to notice something else. The soil around them looked compressed, like weight mattered, like they weren't decoration, they were pressure. Walter approached me on the 15th day. Up close, he looked worse. Skin grayish, lips cracked, eyes bright in a feverish way. He held out a tomato. It was enormous, the size of a softball, deep crimson, perfectly smooth. "From the garden," he said. His voice creaked like old hinges. "The land gives generously. It takes a great deal too, but it gives." I hesitated. Didn't want to be rude. I accepted it. The weight surprised me. It was dense, cold, almost stone-like. "Best you'll ever taste," he added. I thanked him, set it on my kitchen table, left for town to run errands. I didn't eat it. That detail probably saved me. That night, I woke up freezing. But I wasn't in bed. I was standing barefoot in my backyard. The soil was wet beneath my feet, my hands gripped a shovel, and I was already knee-deep in a hole. My arms moved without asking me. Metal into earth. Lift, throw, repeat. My breathing was calm, too calm. My mind screamed, but my body worked. My feet felt wrong, heavy. I looked down. The skin around my ankles had turned gray, cracked. The texture resembled concrete curing. My toes no longer flexed. The soil clung upward around my calves like wet cement. Every scoop of dirt made my legs heavier, denser. I tried to let go of the shovel. My fingers didn't respond. They were stiffening, locking. Panic surged so violently I almost blacked out. And then it clicked. The gnomes, the pits, the perfectly flat soil every morning. The land gave extraordinary harvests, but it demanded labor, nightly labor. And when labor wasn't enough, it demanded mass, an anchor, a replacement weight to seal the debt. Walter wasn't decorating, he was compensating. The gnomes were substitutes, concrete sacrifices. But tonight, he had handed the debt to me. The tomato was the contract. I had accepted the yield. Now the land accepted me. I would dig until I hardened, until I became the next anchor staring downward forever. The paralysis reached my knees. Cold spread upward like drying plaster. I stopped fighting my arms, shifted all focus to my torso. One movement, one violent motion. I twisted my body sideways and ripped my feet upward with everything I had. Pain detonated through my legs, skin tore. I fell backward onto the grass. My heels left shallow molds in the soil, but they were flesh, still flesh. The shovel clattered beside me. My fingers tingled as sensation returned. The digging impulse still pulsed faintly in my forearms, like withdrawal. I staggered inside. The tomato sat on the table, uncut, untouched. It looked darker now, almost pulsing. I grabbed it. It felt even heavier than before, like a bowling ball. I ran outside. Walter's yard was still, no movement, but I knew he was awake, waiting. I hurled the tomato over the chain-link fence with all my strength. It landed with a dull, stone-like crack, split in half. No juice spilled, no pulp. Inside, dry, gray dust, like powdered cement. The soil beneath it shifted slightly, as if inhaling. "I didn't take anything!" I shouted. "It's not my debt!" The words felt ridiculous, but necessary. Across the fence, a sound, a low, broken. Across the fence, a sound, a low, broken groan, followed by frantic digging. Shk, thud, shk, thud, shk, thud. Faster this time, desperate. He had to resume payment. I packed within the hour, didn't sleep, didn't look back. Sold the property 2 weeks later through an agent. Never stepped foot there again. But before I left town, I drove past one last time. From the road, I could see the fence. There were more gnomes now, at least 15, packed tightly together, all staring down, all slightly sunken. And Walter looked smaller, shrunken, as if each night removed a piece of him. The soil in his yard looked richer than ever, vegetables enormous, vines thick and unnatural. Something about that land operates on balance. It gives abundance, but it does not forgive. It does not forget. And it does not allow debt to remain unpaid. I don't accept homegrown produce anymore. Not from neighbors, not from roadside stands. If someone insists, I watch their yard carefully, specifically the decorations. Because sometimes those concrete lawn ornaments aren't whimsical. They're weights. And if you ever see them staring at the ground instead of outward, don't take anything from that soil, not even a tomato. Because once you do, the digging starts. And eventually, you stop moving.